guys, welcome to You Choose Tuesday, which is a weekly nail art tutorial here from Monaco Nail Academy, where you guys get to vote on what the tutorial encompasses that night. So tonight I'm doing this watercolor flower. That's what won the vote on our Facebook page today. And for those of you who weren't watching last week, my nails are naked because I'm trying to grow them out for the first time. They're also really dirty because I've just been playing with pigments. But we'll get stuck into this nail art tutorial. Now, I did spend quite a long time trying to work out the best way to get the coolest watercolor effect. I'll tell you quickly the ones that didn't work. So I did try acrylic paint with water, with monomer, which I knew wouldn't work, but with water and with monomer, neither worked. Monomer makes acrylic paint seize, so that really didn't work. Water was okay, but just not as cool. I also tried pigment with medium. That was okay, but a really slow process, because one thing I found is to get the effect of the image that we chose, you really need to let the layers dry in between, and medium does take slightly longer to dry, so that didn't work. What I've settled on here is pigment with monomer. So that's how I'm going to teach you to do this this nail art look. So I've got a base of Artistic Color Gloss in Bride, so it's just a gel polish, and I've cured it, but I've not wiped it or anything like that. So it's just regular gel polish, like as if it's waiting for top coat. Next to me, I've got a gauze wipe saturated with monomer to clean my brush on. I'm using the Be Creative purple brush, so I'll be able to just wipe pigment off that anytime I want. I've got pigment sitting over there to the side of me, and for ease of showing you what to do, I'm actually going to put the monomer straight onto the top here. This isn't actually my table, this is a backing board that I used for filming, but I guess same, but either way, yeah, it's just, I'm gonna put it straight on to show you what to do. After playing, like, I did maybe 10 of these in different ways, and I found that first of all, when choosing pigments to use the same kind of tone. So I have 3 neon pigments here. I tried using, like, I really was set on using the orange, so this is these 3 pigments already. I was really set on using the orange, and when I tried to add colors of any other sort of tone, like I tried this one here, I tried, I don't know where they are now, but a few different pinks that were really cool, and having 2 different tones sitting together just, it wasn't as cool as using all of the neons together. So even though I wasn't intending on making a neon watercolor, that's what I've ended up with. So I do recommend from my own experimentation that you use all the same tone of color. I didn't find that you have to start with the lightest to darkest or anything like that, but every time that I tried, I used orange first. So that's what I'm going to do. So what I'm going to do is dip into the monomer that's on my table, and then just very lightly into the orange pigment, just a tiny bit, and kind of make a paint, and definitely make it quite thin. That's one mistake I learned. So this is very thinly pigmented, and I kind of feel like I'm making like a windmill shape, like just putting some rough petals in, and it's definitely a dab, not a paint, when you're applying it, and that will start to give it that cool look. I did find when using monomer, I had to play with it for a little while to make sure it didn't run while the monomer evaporated. And then I've got this monomer saturated lint-free wipe sitting next to me to clean my brush on. That's all I did in between layers. The first time I did this was clean my brush on this wipe. I didn't do anything else in between. I always clean my brushes with monomer, not with brush cleanser. So then I wanted to wait for it to dry a little bit. It's pretty dry now. And then I went into pink next. Again, you really don't need a lot of pigment. Like, I'm just touching the pigment to get a few grains. And then swirling that into my monomer. And again, really thin. I kind of want just more monomer here, but not a lot of pigment. You really, like when I used, you just end up with a paint and it didn't have that watercolor effect, and when I did do it too thick, it overpowered the previous color. So if I make it nice and thin with monomer, I can then go and kind of like dab next to the previous color, overlapping slightly, but kind of next to. And you don't have to be super careful, because remember that the center is going to pull everything together. Like this looks like a splotchy mess right now. Hi Becca. This looks like a splotchy mess right now, but honestly this looks exactly the same until you put the center in. So I'm going to put a little bit more monomer on my table. Obviously I wouldn't do this with a client. I would have a palette with me, but I tried lining up a palette under the camera and it wasn't working. So I'm just doing this for you guys, this isn't my normal what I would do. If you need to thin a piece out, you can go back in with monomer. Like that one just wasn't quite blended how I wanted. And I finished with the neon yellow. I didn't want to, like I said at the start, I wasn't intending on it being a neon flower, so I was trying to stay away from the neon yellow for a while. All of these pigments are from the Be Creative Neons collection, which we sell at monacopro.co.nz. I really didn't want the neon yellow to overpower in it to look like a super neon flower, so I tried to avoid it, but in the end I used it for just a few highlights. So again, really thin. And only when this is dry, and you can see it's not quite because it's picking up the other colors, I came in and just put a few dabs of yellow around the place to brighten it up and put an extra tone in there. You can definitely tell if that first layer is not quite dry, it picks up the other pigment and it's just not as defined, it's not as cool. I can imagine if you're doing 2 feature nails like this though, it'd be so easy to do a layer of orange, hi Victoria, and then go to the other hand and do a layer of orange, and then come back and do the second lot. I'm kind of not rushing this, but doing it a bit quicker than normal just because it's live and I don't want it to get boring for you guys. So, and then I'm going to end up tutuing and ruining it. So right now I'm just waiting for this to dry, because I need to put my center in. So again, I could be doing the other hand if this was on a real person while I wait for it to dry. Instead I'm going to put the lids on my pigments so that I don't spill them, because that's what I did before I went live. And so it was Secret Solstice is the yellow, just while this is drying, and Wanderlust is the pink. They're all available separately, but they also come in a 6-pack, and it's a bit cheaper to get it as a 6-pack. And then just putting the lid on Coachella, which is the orange. Sorry, it's so dirty. I've been mucking around with them. And then this should be relatively dry now. I'm just going to dry the purple brush on my hand. It's just got a little bit of monomer on it. It's mostly dry. That I usually use a dry gauze wipe or something. And what I found with doing the center, I wanted that really sort of stippled effect, but I also don't want to be stippling with a needle pen for 3 hours. So what I did was I took the pure black pigment from the primary collection and used that to stipple the center first. And then, so that was just like my base. And then I came back in with my Be Creative needle pen and my Be Creative black acrylic paint, and this is how I finished the center. So just picked up a little bit out of this lip here. I started in the center and just sort of like redefined the center, so it kind of looks like the whole thing was stippled, how do you even say that, when actually it wasn't. It was a lot easier. I also used the same needle pen to do the stalk I don't know if I even want a stalk on this one. The image that you guys voted on had the had a stalk, so I just used the needle pen and I literally painted with the needle for the stalk on the first one. I think you probably like the one that we voted on had maybe 4 or 5 colors in it. When I played around, 3 was definitely what I thought, oh, that's a mess, what I thought was the limit on colors that looked good together. But I think if you were using a really watered down or monomered down pigment, then you could probably think for this live video in particular, I didn't want to go more than 3 because I was waiting for each layer to dry in between. So yeah, the main things I learned in trying to work this out for you guys was to wait for the layers to dry in between, to use the pigment as thin as possible, and to use all the same tone together. So that is your watercolor flower tutorial for tonight. There will be another You Choose Tuesday next week. You can get all of these products from monacopro.co.nz, and I will see you again next Tuesday. Bye guys.